Welcome back from lunch. As we step into the final afternoon of this inspiring ITB convention, I'm delighted to welcome you back to the hospitality track here on the blue stage, where we still have plenty of valuable content for you. For those who are just joining, my name is Caroline Wicherink. I'm Professor of Hospitality at Hotel School The Hague, Hospitality Business School, and the moderator and co-creator of this hospitality track. We're kicking off this afternoon with an insightful interview on how technology supports service excellence. And as you might have seen on our program, that Mike Rawson was scheduled to speak this afternoon. Unfortunately, due to personal reasons, he had to cancel on short notice. However, please stay with us. We have I'm very proud to welcome an exceptional speaker to the stage today, Ted Evers. He is a global partner leader, travel and hospitality at Amazon Web Services. Ted, you will be interviewed in conversation with Uli Pilau from Apaleo, bringing us valuable insights into the AI-driven future of travel. So, the floor is already yours, gentlemen. Enjoy this meaningful conversation.
Thanks, Caroline. Can you all hear me? Yeah, it works well. Great. So welcome, everybody. We realize it's the last day, and most probably all of us had big parties last night and are still a little bit recovering. Mike Rawson sends his regards. He had to travel back to Amsterdam for personal reasons. However, we are very happy to have Ted on board today, who's come all the way from US to join us in Berlin here. And Ted is a very experienced hotel and hotel tech person. And maybe, Ted, you want to give us some background on where you're coming from, your history, where you started in hotels and hotel tech.
Sure, thanks. Well, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all for bearing with me as I try to fill in for Mike here, some pretty big shoes. I've been in the industry just under 25 years or so, working with hotels from independent properties on up to the global hotel chains during my time at a startup called Site 59, as well as Travelocity, for any of you who might remember those brands from a few years ago. And then I also led the hotels and the packaging business at eDreams, now part of eDreams Odigio in Barcelona. So very familiar with the challenges facing a lot of our hotel properties. And obviously, as a global partner leader at Amazon Web Services, I'm responsible for working with all the companies that are building solutions for our travel and hospitality customers on AWS. So very tied into AI and all of the other technology that we're dealing with today.
Thanks. So one of the things we have been seeing happening in hotel technology and hotel industry over the past couple of years is that actually technology is moving much faster than ever. I mean, we have seen the move into the cloud, so lots of the hotel groups have been moving their systems, technology, PMS and others to the cloud over the past 10, 15, 20 years. But actually it seems that it's going much faster than ever, and that AI is a big talk. However, obviously we like to very much see use cases in our industry. And a lot of people are talking AI. I think getting a grip on what it really means and use cases in hotels and seeing those use cases, it's much more difficult. And a lot of people are still hesitating. Would you say, Ted, that actually the move from on-premise hosted systems into cloud systems and now the move into AI, is it as big as the last big move in technology?
Absolutely. I mean, it's big, if not bigger. So for those of you who may not be familiar, so cloud computing is basically the delivery of compute and storage and other application services over the internet. So instead of having a data center with physical servers and having to maintain that, you basically leverage Amazon Web Services or another cloud provider to procure those services on a needed and as needed basis. So one of the benefits is that you're trading a capital for an operating cost. You're able to scale up and down very rapidly, which can help based on the fluctuations within your business. And if you look globally, so not just in travel and hospitality, overall, the upside is very significant. Only about 20% or so, roughly, please don't quote me on that, is, of the world is like on the cloud, so there's a lot of upside. But you know, as you mentioned, in order to leverage artificial intelligence and all of the things that we want to do to deliver a better guest experience, it really helps to be on the cloud in order to leverage that technology.
And I think you mentioned most of the big brands are using AWS today. Is it, what did you say, 9 out of 10 or 8?
Sure, no, we're very fortunate to have a wonderful roster of customers across travel and hospitality. 9 of the largest, 10 of the largest, 9 of the 10 largest hotel brands are AWS customers. So we appreciate that business, but we have customers from global hotel chains on down to individual properties, and that's one of the other benefits of the cloud is that you don't need to have tremendous amounts of investment to get started. Any of us could just open up an account today and start using all that cloud technology on a pay-as-you-go basis.
Yeah, we actually are seeing the same. We were a startup 7 years ago when we started to revolutionize the PMS space in the hotel industry. And actually we got on AWS kind of from the first minute, and it helped us a lot because we could scale with growing the company around the world, and that makes a big difference. Now, one of the big words nowadays is when you talk about AI agents. Lots of people are saying AI agents will actually replace traditional software. The CEO of Microsoft had an interview a couple of weeks ago where he said, forget about how software was done in the past. We are actually only going to see platforms and infrastructure and data warehouses that will drive actually how software is being developed, being run, being operated. And those AI agents, they actually will be using those platforms in order to do anything you can imagine on the operational side, distribution side, transactional side for hotels. Is that a trend you're already seeing kicking in? Is it coming from US or as usual, you would say?
I don't say, I mean, it's coming from the U.S. Obviously, we're a U.S. company at AWS, but a lot of these trends have been unleashed by the adoption of cloud technology. When you speak of agents and AI, again, it's, you know, there's so many changes happening that it's easy to get lost in that. So if we think at a very basic level, a lot of the artificial intelligence, machine learning is not new, right? So if we look at Amazon, it's been being used for over 20 years or more in developing recommendations, for example, for products. And then you have your generative AI, where it's so instead of where standard or typical AI or ML will be just, you know, delivering insights and analysis for you and kind of automating that, with generative AI, you're actually creating new data, right, and creating new responses. And then with agentic AI, there's different flavors, and these are rough boundaries. You're actually enabling those semi-autonomous or fully, in the fullest expression of it, an autonomous agent to actually carry out a task for you, right? So, and the big question now is, will we see that for hotel bookings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, because when we look at really the areas where in our industry that could apply, there's obviously the guest journey, which is important. There's the whole thing of booking, distribution, customizing the needs of the clients, the hotel guests, but also obviously back office procedures. There are a lot of things which are still being done manually in our industry in the back offices of hotels or hotel groups, which actually can be automated in the future. But let's start with distribution a little bit. So where would you see the big impact on the distribution side? I mean, it's your history working with OTAs and distribution, so you will have a good picture. Huh?
Sure. So, you know, for the hoteliers in the room, I'm not going to sit here and say OTAs will go away as a result of agentic AI, but we do need to remember that, you know, they've built up a lot of value with customers over time about providing choice. They also have a lot of customer data and preference data, et cetera. So I think they will only leverage that to their advantage and leverage that existing technology. On the other hand, that also enables hoteliers, hotel brands to strengthen their position, to drive more direct bookings. And a lot of it will boil down to how well you know the customer, but also, and that in turn is going to require rely on the data, and data being the foundation to all of what we're talking about here today.
Right, because one of the limitations we are seeing very often when we stay at hotels and get communication from the hotels, it's never as customized as you would like it to see. So I would say, and I'm traveling a lot, get a lot of hotel bookings around the world, the communication I'm getting from hotels is in most cases really meaningless. It's general emails which kind of promote the hotel or services or features of the hotel, but they are never as customized as they should be or as I would expect them to be. So I think one of the things is understanding the hotel guest far better and then responding to what they really need and drive offers, proposals, promotions really towards the guest and the personalization of the guest. This is something where we feel AI could make a huge difference. Is that true?
No, absolutely, and not just in terms of automating those tasks and making them easier, but improving the quality of them. So as you mentioned, personalization. So it's surprising how few or how many emails you might get from a brand that maybe just have your first name, but they kind of are tone deaf. That maybe it's for a destination that you just booked or had already visited, or it might be off. But so leveraging that to understand and get a better view of the customer, that data, number one. And then the other thing is we tend to think of automation doesn't necessarily have to equate to a lack of like empathy in the communication, right? So we're still in the hospitality business, so we have to be careful about being transactional in the emails, even though there are transaction type of emails. So those automated ones that you get, you know, a day before your check-in, reminding you to check in online, for example. All of those, it's how you're saying and what you're saying, and I mean, generative AI can be very helpful in that. You know, create an email that has this type of an audience with this type of a sentiment, and it can get it much more personalized and make it less transactional from an actual content standpoint.
And I guess one of the concerns we have is that the data where it's sitting for the hotels and the brands is very fragmented. I think that's one of the big concerns even a single hotel sees today. There are so many different channels and places where data is being stored. So I think the consolidation of data and being able to analyze this data and act on this data, that will be more important than ever. And as long as you have those silos in the hotel industry, which are PMS, CRS, CRM, whatever other systems hotels and hotel groups are running, that will represent a big problem, just getting AIs and AI agents to work. So the infrastructure behind, I guess, and having consolidated data is one key factor where you should start to look at. No?
Absolutely, and to really leverage the data, leverage the AI and ML, it's really, you really need to be on the cloud, right? And also, when we think, so not only for the personalization, but from an operational standpoint, you know, Uli mentioned the consolidation, and you think about the innovation in the industry that's happened leveraging the cloud. I'll give you a quick example with Hilton, where they were able to rebuild their main systems, right, the CRS, the PMS, on their own, and are now able to confirm a adjoining room at booking, which doesn't sound a lot like a huge innovation necessarily, but as we know in this room, it's when you have those separate systems, that can be difficult. So it unleashes a whole new era of innovation so that you can focus less on those operational issues and more on serving the guests. So when you leverage systems like Apoleo that gives you more flexibility and you have a little bit more control, that you can leverage that data in your own environment, run that AI and ML and do those things that you want to enable that better guest experience, as well as the operational efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things we are seeing as well is there's a lot of misconception in the industry that people are saying technology will replace human beings and people and receptionists and other people, and they are hesitant to apply modern technologies. I think when you really look at it, the goal should always be to have a far better guest journey and far better guest communication than you had before, and have the people that are working in the hotels focus on the guests themselves. So we've had experience with a couple of the more modern brands here in Europe that are driving the experience in accommodation, like Citizen M, or there's a group, for example, from Germany called Numa, which are running their properties entirely staffless. Now, when you run the property entirely staffless, so you have no people at site, at property, you need to make sure that the guest journey works 100% reliably. And I think this is one of the key things why technology should be applied. It's not about replacing anybody, it's about making the guest experience far better than it was before. Is that something you see in many parts of the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I guess first to the comment about replacing, I forget where I saw it and who quoted, but I'm sure we've all heard this. It's not that it will replace humans, but generative AI will replace work done by humans who are not using generative AI. So it's never been easier to just dive in on no matter what the application is, learn, experiment, see how it can benefit your brand or actually just your individual work when it comes to just identifying and being able to read or summarize a document or to be able to translate something into a much more plain language, as we talk about with like fare rules from airlines, for example. So, but and in terms of globally, it's gonna vary depending on the task and the use case. Because there may be certain areas of the world where labor may be more affordable, where we can just kind of throw a bunch of people at it. For some of you, I don't know, the tech nerds in the house may have used Mechanical Turk. That it was an Amazon tool where it basically just farmed out a specific task to workers that could perform those tasks and do it and crowdsource it and have it done very quickly. So it will depend on that in the use case, and which is another key point of when you are venturing into that space, just like with any endeavor technically, you want to be very focused on the use case. What are you trying to accomplish? What are the outcomes you expect? Those outcomes may be different as you iterate and go along the steps of the process, but to at least start out with a clear vision so that you're not just saying, I'm doing this generative AI project so that I can say to my boss that we're doing something with generative AI. It's actually for a very specific use case.
Yeah, which is still rare in our industry. We see it now coming more and more, but still when you look at a percentage of hotels or hotel chains that are using this type of technology, it's still very limited today. Now, one of the reasons, or certainly several reasons, but the main reasons why it was so difficult in hotel industry, people were scared of technology because it was so complex to understand it, to apply it, to use it, and also because of the cost. Now, I think with the recent trends, we are seeing both factors actually disappearing to quite some extent. Is that something you're supporting from your perspective?
Well, in terms of the adoption, certainly. I think we're enabling a lot of the concerns that are around it just by the sheer amount of sharing the know-how, right? So there's AWS.com is very deep if you want to learn more on actually the specifics of developing and working with generative AI or any of the services. But also, some of the concerns around consumer-facing applications may be one of the things that may be holding hoteliers back. And for that, we have things like with Amazon Bedrock, for example, we have guardrails built in so that you can put some guardrails around the content to be sure and have more confidence. Things like being able to show how accurate answers are and monitor that and to continue to fine-tune. I think as those technologies develop, it will break down more of those barriers, and we'll see even greater acceleration. But the main thing is to start and at least experiment with it.
Yeah, and be less concerned and less afraid of starting working on it.
Yep.
We had a nice event yesterday on AI where a number of hotel executives were present, and actually the one that was the most advanced in this whole group was a lady that was running 2 hotels in Munich. 2 small hotels. What she had done is already years ago, she had put in the background the platform and infrastructure in place to have really the basis to make things happen. And she told us she was not a specialist on technology or AI or anything, but I was pretty impressed with the use cases she already put into place. That was fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, she was very humble, and she just basically said, "I'm not an expert," and it literally, it's true. Like and you can leverage, if you don't know how to use generative AI, you can ask it. What you can help them, refine the prompt. How could I phrase this better to get the output I want? Or, rephrasing it and getting more information on what should be the best prompt to do this in the future. It will respond.
So when you would give some recommendations nowadays to hotels and hotel groups, would you say, let's wait rather a little bit and see how this whole thing develops? Because I think starting testing things and working on things and trying them out by yourselves, this is something anybody could do right now. So when we speak to hoteliers, there's still a lot of hesitance to go that direction, but it has become so easy in many ways, at least to kick it off and try it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I will preface that. So it's very easy to start. There is one thing that we're seeing globally across a lot of customers is that we're seeing use cases that actually can be solved by what we'll call standard or plain vanilla AI and ML. So I think that's why I led off with like a little bit of a description, because there's some distinctions, and when you start to move into larger models and more consumption, that's going to be more costly. So what we saw last year, or in the early adopters, they might be concerned, or they might be using only one model for a particular use case that might even be just a standard AI ML use case, or maybe it didn't require such a powerful model. And the good news is that we, at our reInvent event last November, we announced a number of new Amazon Nova models so that you can have a plain, simple text model if you want, for example, or use a video and image input. And the idea there is, regardless of what provider that you're using, is that to have the right model for the right use case, and to know when and when not to use a generative AI versus a standard AI ML, or even agentic.
Yeah. Now, I think when we come to the last question, and we might have some questions from the audience, I know it's hard to do predictions where we are next year. We have seen that actually anything we predict is always wrong, and it gets changed on an ongoing basis. So we are living in a very dynamic environment. Where do you see kind of the technology trends on AI and surrounding areas going over the next year, 2 years? Any interesting predictions you might want to share?
Well, this will be a not really a headline shiny prediction, but I would say the advancement of being able to develop things much more quickly, leveraging generative AI, agentic AI, even in our own development at Amazon, we started using it and have seen just incredible productivity enhancements in the ability to deliver code a lot faster. So leveraging a thing like Amazon Q, for example, for developers. So I think enabling that back-end technology and to deliver and ship products much more quickly will be the one that I think is unseen, but it will be very seen by the people who are looking at your bottom line, because you'll be able to do it a lot quicker. And ultimately, it will bring it to the consumer side. So facilitating things like being able to make a booking on your behalf, with your preferences. And I think that will happen a lot sooner than we all expect. And some of you may have seen like the recent Alexa announcement that we had, where you can actually book a table on OpenTable, leveraging that. So I think those types of innovations we'll see happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I was talking to a lot of tech companies here on ITB, and there were very few cases I saw, real use cases, but some of them were really impressive. I saw yesterday AI res agent, where actually you could personalize the stay, where you want to go, how long, to which destination, and they would come up exactly with the right targeted offers. And that was something which I hadn't seen before, but it was so accurate in terms of what I wanted to do and how I intend to travel and to where and what my preferences are. I think that's a trend that will kick in very radically, faster most probably than we can imagine.
Absolutely, and not just leveraging, so building up that data that you have on the guest on your own, but also as technology progresses, the ability to share that data with partners, whether that's through a loyalty program. We see a lot of airlines collaborating with hotels, for example, or whether it's with a restaurant, if you're a smaller independent property, to be able to share that data and control it. No one owns the customer. No one owns the guest. The guest owns the guest, right? It's all about being able to deliver that better experience, and to collaborate on that personalization is a great approach as well when you have those aligned, the business objectives aligned and the marketing objectives aligned.
Lovely. I think that's a great statement to close it for the day. So thanks so much, Ted. Very good insights, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for remaining inside with us on a nice sunny day. Thanks.
Gentlemen, a big applause for Ted and Uli. Thank you for your flexibility, Ted. Thank you for your professionality, Uli. Great insights.